Hi everyone, Jesse here with etrailer. Today we'll be taking a look at and I'll show you how to install the universal wiring kit for trailer brake controllers, or as we call it, the ETBC7 on our 2021 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. Here's what it will look like when it's installed on your vehicle. I did use a long bracket to get it mounted up, but you'll have your 7-way with the cap here, just like any other 7-way. The nice thing about this kit is you'll be able to retain your 4-pole wiring in case you need both. That's a really nice feature. That's really it. This is just something that you'll need if you plan on hooking up with a brake controller and you don't have the factory tow package on your Jeep. As for the installation, it is universal, which is pretty nice. You can install this on any vehicle, but that comes with a little bit of extra work as far as running wires and splicing into things. So if it's not something that you're looking to do yourself, feel free to check out our dealer locator. If you are looking to get this installed yourself, then just follow along and I'll walk you through the process. Also, if you've installed this and you just want to share what you're towing with it or your experience with it, then feel free to leave a review or a comment. To start our installation, what I like to do is just find a mounting point for our 7-way. I had to get a long bracket, which we have available here at etrailer, and I bent it out just a little bit. My main goal was to get it away from our exhaust, but now we can just go through what our wires are going to do. So of course, we have our 4-pole here. This end will end up right here so that we can use that. And the other end will actually plug into our 4-pole trailer wiring. This yellow wire is for reverse. We're actually not going to use it, so I'll end up just bending it back and taping it to that loom. The blue is for our brake controller. We'll extend this out to go to the front of the vehicle along with our black, which is for power. Then the whites, we will have to find a nice suitable grounding location to ground that ring terminal. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut these butt connectors off and replace them with these heat shrink butt connectors. Since we're making these connections outside of the vehicle, I want them to be watertight, and these heat shrink butt connectors will allow us to do that. So what I'll do is just cut both of these wires right where the connector is. Then I'll strip them back. Slide a butt connector over and crimp it down. We'll take our duplex that's included in our kit and just take a razor blade or a knife, split it down the middle and peel it back so you can gain access to your wires. Then what we'll do is strip these back, and I'll tie the black wire in with the black wire and the white wire in with the blue. Now for the ground, you could ground it up here. It's kind of above the exhaust, and like I said, my main goal is to stay away from the exhaust. So what I'll do is take some extra white wire that I have laying around. I'll cut this ring terminal off and butt connect it, and then I'll crimp on a ring terminal and I'll tie it up here far away from the exhaust. So as I said, I added that ring terminal on, and now I'll use a self tapper and drive that into the frame of the vehicle. I'll show you the route I took with our duplex wire. Our main goal is to stay away from any hot or moving parts, so I ran it up here, and then it's above the frame. I'll end up zip tying it to those factory wires just to make sure it doesn't move around. And from there, it's going to be hard to see most of the way, but we go up above our frame here and come out on the outside past this mount here. Then from here, what I did was I ran a piece of airline tubing through the frame. That way we can just run our wire through the frame. We don't have to worry about it getting damaged at all. But it goes all the way through the frame to here. Then at this point, I'll once again use a piece of airline tubing to run it up into the engine bay where we can make contact with our battery. With our wiring ran up into the engine bay, I actually cut the sheathing and cut it back because our white wire is going to go straight into the engine bay and our black wire is going to come over here to our battery. But before we connect to the battery, we'll need to connect that wire to a 40 amp fuse. our circuit breaker, and next is finding a mounting location for that. So I think right here on the top of this fuse box will be fine. So what I'll do is take this fuse box off and get some of the included self-tappers, and I'll attach both the 40 amp fuse and then also a 30 amp fuse. That's going to be for our brake controller. So this part gets a little bit confusing, but it's really simple, and I'll help walk you through it. So we'll have a series of ring terminals. The smaller ring terminals will connect to our circuit breakers, and these large ones are for connecting to our battery. I'll start out with the black wire. I'm going to cut it about here, crimp on a ring terminal, put it to this silver post, and then I'll use some of that extra wire that we have, crimp a ring terminal on one end, connect it to the copper post, then bring that to the battery. And then for our second one, we'll have some extra black wire again, connect to the battery with our copper post, then connect a longer wire to the silver post, and that will run into the floorboard of our car along with our white wire. So we have both of our wires, and we're ready to run these through the firewall. On this Jeep, it looks like our neighbors actually already removed a grommet here right to the left of the brake booster. So I'm going to use that, which if you still have that grommet installed, I'd actually recommend poking a hole through it and then running the wires. It's just going to seal everything up better, but since that grommet's already gone, I'll just run these wires through it and pull them through from the inside. Now we're ready to wire into our brake controller wiring harness. I'll just go over the wires real quick. Our blue wire here, that's for our brake controller signal or a brake signal, and that's going to connect to our white wire that we ran through the firewall. The white wire here is our ground wire. We'll just attach a ring terminal to the end of that and get that grounded out. The red wire is actually going to tie into a brake light signal from the vehicle, which will, on this vehicle, we'll actually have to install a stoplight switch, and then we'll tie that in. And our black wire is going to connect with the black wire for 12 volt power. So as I said, the factory brake light switch is not usable, so we had to purchase a stoplight bracket separately. It simply just mounts up, and there's a switch there that connects to your brake pedal, and you'll have to make some minor adjustments. But our green wire will connect to our red wire on our brake controller, and then that red wire coming off that stoplight switch will run up to the battery for power. So I attached our ground with a ring terminal right here. There's just a factory bolt that I undid and then slipped the terminal under and reinstalled. And I also ran our power for our stoplight switch up to the battery. So that's going to do it for our wiring. And at this point, we'll figure out where we're going to mount our brake controller. So it looks like our best bet for mounting position, it will be right here. One thing when you're wiring is just kind of keep in mind where you're going to mount this, just to make sure that your wires will reach it. But we'll get into installing our bracket for this. So with the mounting, this is where you can get creative. It's really just personal preference where you want it. The one thing you want to make sure is that it's not an angle this way or that way. You're going in the direction of travel straightforward. As far as going this way, you have 360 degrees that you can use, and it'll work just fine. There's also two different brackets that you can use. I'm going to use the smaller bracket and set it right here with some self-tappers. And then we'll be able to get our mounting plate onto this. Getting it installed this way will actually make it easier to pop off and on. We'll just put our mounting plate up here with 2 screws on each side. This is going to be good if you were planning on using the same brake controller with multiple vehicles. Now we just need to get this plugged in. Just push it till it clicks and get it mounted up. And once it's mounted up, what's next is to clean up all of our wires, make sure we're not going to kick any of them, and then we'll get to testing. Now we have our 7-pole tester hooked up. We'll just run through all of the functions, starting with the brake pedal on the vehicle. See, when I push the brake pedal, it does activate our tester. I also do the manual emergency brake on the brake controller by just turning the knob. That also works, and while we're here, we'll run through all of the lights, starting with our tail lights, our left turn, right turn, and our brakes again. Now that we've tested everything and it's working properly, we're ready to hook up to our trailer and hit the road. So that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the ETBC 7 on our 2021 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited.